Welcome back. Glad you're joining us again as we reflect on the sins of pride and selfishness. What great reflections during the course of the week from some of our people. Wonderful to see them engaging the material at such a great level. Be easy for us as Catholics to kind of dismiss these and say, well, it's a sin or it's not a sin, as we traditionally have done. But as I pointed out at the beginning of the week, it's best to see them on a continuum. Then we get the understanding of how pride and selfishness, if behavior goes unchecked in our lives, it moves on the continuum pretty significantly, and that's when it becomes a problem. We talked about with many people the issue of my calendar and my checkbook. How do they or what do they tell me about my relationship with God? And while that is a valuable question, it's important to remember Jesus didn't have either. But one thing that we really can learn from him is at the top of his list was being in communion with his Father. And we see him again and again withdrawing to pray and to be in communion, despite the pleadings of the disciples. Come on, all these people want to see you. But he had great time for being in communion with his Father, and then great time in his schedule for being with people who really needed him and his presence. Our ancestors, I think, had a great sense of this. You see portraits of the Angelus, them taking time to pray in the fields, because giving thanks to God for the harvest and giving thanks to God for everything they had was really important. It's even more important today because of the advancements in technology and the demands on our time and on our checkbook. This week we have some woozies. We have impatience, irritability, and anger. Now, if we think that we've experienced these other sins and that they may not be big sins, wow, let's try these ones on. And this is where the whole idea of continuum becomes extremely important. When I experience some impatience or some irritability, that's manageable. But when they go unchecked and they just continue to escalate in my life experience, that's when they become really problematic. And the question, obviously, in these is a question of what techniques do I employ to try and interrupt this pattern, the pattern of impatience, irritability, or anger, when I notice it rising? Do you have any effective techniques? I know a man who carries a cross in his pocket, and he says, when I find myself getting to that stage, I take the cross out and I hold it for a while and say, Lord, help me to deal with this struggle the way you dealt with struggles, with the irritability, with the impatience, or with the anger. Help me to deal with that. What do you do to interrupt the pattern as you experience it coming along in your life? I think that's the important question. If I have no way of interrupting the pattern, then it escalates as a behavior that's going to enslave me on a pretty permanent basis.